Welcome back everyone to my monthly PC builds and deals series. This is my entry for February 2022, and there's a few reasons why you might watch this video. One is if you're interested in just deals on PC components, and you can find links to those in the description down below. Two is if you're trying to build a new PC for the first time, in which case I do have a couple builds today that I'll be getting to towards the end of the video, and there's timestamps if you want to jump ahead to a specific thing. And third would be if you, like me, just like to keep up with the current prices of PC hardware, whether it's GPUs, CPUs, or any of the other components that go into a build. There is reason to be optimistic for 2022. Things aren't quite as dire as they've been for the past 18 months or so let's dive in.
Excellent!
The Thermaltake Tower 100 is back in a variety of colors. This unique and versatile mini ITX chassis has 3 tempered glass panels for an expansive view of your epic build. The vertical orientation means support for big 3-slot graphics cards and tall air coolers, and every side and top panel is removable, which makes building or accessing the inset magnetic dust filters way easier. This case performed well in my testing, even with the high-end 5900X and RTX 3080 system. It has full-size ATX power supply support, and it's now available in turquoise, metallic gold, and racing green. Click the sponsor link in the description for more. Before I dive in, just a quick reminder that I'm not actually building any systems today though, so check out my builds playlist if you'd like to see me assemble and test some builds. And if you're just getting started with PC building, check out my beginner's guide to building a gaming PC, where I have lots of builds, tutorials, and setup walkthroughs. Also, if you're shopping for PC components or shopping for just about anything in general, it's always a good idea to reality check the prices that you're paying, and Camel is a great option for doing that, specifically for Amazon. It will show you pricing history and whether or not you're getting a good deal right now, and also for PC building in general or just reality checking prices, PC Part Picker is a great option for that as well, and you can look at individual components, where they are for sale for different prices, and again, like I said, pricing history. Very, very helpful. Perhaps the biggest indication for me that things feel a little bit different in 2022 is I'm actually starting with GPUs this month, rather than going over everything except GPUs and then just saying the GPU market sucks and you're on your own. And the reason for that is this graphics card right here, the Radeon RX 6500 XT, which released to much not fanfare, the opposite of fanfare. This card was routinely smacked down by lots of reviewers because honestly, it's not that excellent of a performer, and it's cut down in various ways, like having only a x4 PCIe 4.0 interface. It's only got 4 gigs of VRAM, and it's not going to be the best card if you're at all interested in like gaming and streaming at the same time, because video encoding and decoding is also something that's cut down in this card compared to some other options on the market. That said, if you can find this card for closer to its $200 MSRP than marked up prices, it's actually a reasonable deal right now. And we can actually see on Newegg, and I'm using Newegg dark mode right now, which I can't tell if I like it or not. What do you guys think? There's light mode, there's dark mode. It's okay, I suppose. But these are supposed to be $200 each. They're currently going for, I guess $270 is the least expensive one that's available, but you can actually add it to cart here. It is in stock, sold and shipped by Newegg. And these have been popping up for even less than that. In fact, just yesterday, there was a Sapphire Pulse variant for $230. That one sold out pretty quickly. But like I said, just reality check and keep your eye out for what is available. Right now, the one I'd point you towards is this MSI Mech Radeon 6500 XT, because it's $270 and it actually has a slightly larger 2-fan cooler. And it also still just has those 2 video outs. So again, check out my review on the 6500 XT if you'd like to hear some of the pros and cons, specifically the cons about this card. And I'll also post a link to the Tech Power Up specs page for the 6500 XT, because here is where you can scroll down to the relative performance chart. And this is aggregate performance, so it might vary from game to game, but this gives you sort of an idea of where the 6500 XT is going to stack up versus other cards that might be competing with it. So absolutely check out used market alternatives before you drop $270-ish on a 6500 XT. On the AMD side, you might be interested in RX 580 or an RX 590. The 5500 XT, 5600 XT, or anything better than that. It's hard for me to give too much specific advice on the used market because the seller you're buying from can vary. You might have a good experience, you might have a bad experience. There might be varying availability in your area, but it'll be worth it for you to just go over this list. And from the NVIDIA side, you have this 1066 gig, 1650 Super, 1660, 1660 Super, 1660 Ti, GTX 1070 Ti, and 3058 gig, as well as, again, any cards above that that will outperform a 6500 XT. And I guess all I can say beyond that is that, all of us reviewers clearly got together and colluded to put up horrible reviews of this card so that the reception would be so mixed and negative that some of these would still be available in stock. There's different ways to look at it. Hopefully I've given you enough buyer beware warnings about it, but again, it is a graphics card that's a new series that you can buy for a somewhat reasonable price right now, and I'm hoping that as the year progresses, we'll have even more options like that. Next, we're gonna look at CPUs. I'm gonna start with AMD and some Intel options. I do have, again, those builds towards the end of this video that use some AMD and some Intel CPUs. Bear in mind that AMD's current platform, AM4, which uses X570 or B550 chipset motherboards, is technically end of life, and their new CPUs that they're launching at the end of this year are going to be a new platform, so you won't necessarily have an upgrade path, which is why I'm not recommending the 5000 series from AMD quite as much as I used to. Also, I don't think AMD has priced them as competitively as some of Intel's 12th gen parts. But if you go over to Micro Center, they do have the 5800X on sale for $300 right now, and that is the same as it was up for sale for on Black Friday. You do have to have physical access to a Micro Center to go in and buy this in store, but it's $350 everywhere else. At 300 bucks, it's a pretty compelling, good deal. Likewise, the 5600X for $240. Honestly, if you're gonna buy a CPU and you have the ability to go and buy one in person at a Micro Center, that's what you should do because they tend to have the best prices. That said, here's the 5800X for $350, which is what it's selling for on Newegg and Amazon. $350. Oh, I guess Newegg has a $5 off promo code, which may or may not impact your decision. And the 5900X was 500 bucks at Amazon earlier today, but it's not anymore, so never mind that. Now, if you're building a gaming PC, but you don't necessarily want to risk the 6500 XT with its sort of shortcomings, or you just want to wait and hold out a little bit longer as hopefully the market situation for graphics cards continues to get better, but you need something to game on right now, then something that can tide you over is the AMD Ryzen APUs, or the 5600G and 5700G specifically, that have integrated graphics that are actually pretty decent. They're a very big step up from Intel's integrated graphics right now, so here is where I would recommend AMD if you need something to get you by. You can get the 5600G, which is a 6-core processor, for $220, and again, it includes integrated graphics, and it includes a cooling solution in the box as well. So I think this is a good deal for the price, especially with this recent markdown. Just don't pair the 5600G with a 6500 XT because the 5600G does only have PCIe 3.0 for its connection to your graphics card, and PCIe 3.0 is not a good pairing for the 6500 XT. It will reduce its performance, especially in situations where you're using a lot of VRAM. But like I said, if you're really on a budget and need something to get you up and running right now, my 5600G build is around $550 to $575. Now on the Intel side with CPUs, we have sort of a strange situation because Intel is providing more compelling options in the budget range than what AMD currently has available. So if saving money while also getting close to leading edge performance is the name of your game, then Intel's 12th gen processors, especially the 4-core and 6-core options, are pretty compelling. In fact, the 12100F, which is a quad core without integrated graphics, is only $110. Unfortunately, it's sold out and it's only really available at Best Buy. I think Intel has an exclusivity deal for their quad cores with Best Buy to some degree. Likewise, there's the 12100 non-F, which does have integrated graphics, which can be helpful in some situations, especially if you're just building a system where you need to have video outs but you don't have a graphics card, is $140. That's a $30 upgrade for the iGPU, which again, you may or may not need. Personally, right now, I think the 12100F for $110 plus the 6500 XT is just about the best new products build that you can put together right now. But like I said, it's out of stock. So that's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on. Hopefully inventory will get a little bit better over time. The 12400F is a step up from there. It's a 6-core instead of a quad 4. Again, since there's an F on the end, it means it doesn't have an iGPU, and this was supposed to be $180. Yeah, Newegg was selling this directly for $180. They sold out of it, so their third-party sellers are selling it for 200 bucks or more. For $180, this is a nice step up in terms of raw CPU performance versus the 12100, and also it's going to be an excellent gaming CPU as well. But I wouldn't pay 200 bucks for that. I'd just spend an extra $9 and get the straight-up Core i5-12400, which is available for around $209 to $210. I guess it's not going to ship right away, but at least within a week. And since this doesn't have an F on the end, it means it does have an iGPU, and that's often pretty helpful for a lot of people, whether it's for troubleshooting or just having video outs without a discrete graphics card to get you by for a little bit of time. Newegg does have this 12400 for $209, and also with a $10 off promo code, although that's probably going to be just about over. If you're watching this video right when it went up, it might still be on. But there's your price for a 6-core. Then we also have the 12600K. It's currently $280, which is a really good price over at B&H. So check that out if you want to do some unlocked overclocking stuff, as long as you pair it with a Z690 motherboard. Elsewhere, the 12600K is not as good of a price. So that B&H deal was the best one that I could find. Oh, and this is, okay, never mind. Newegg has matched them. I'm guessing this was added just recently as well from when I started looking these up this morning. 12600K is also $280 at Newegg if you do this $15 off promo code. Cool. And then there's the 12700K, and this is also one that has had a price drop. It was originally selling for $400 to $420-ish, now down to $375. And this is the reason why I'm not recommending chips like the 5800X and 5900X quite as much. Because the 12700K is a beastly chip. It is better priced than something like the 5900X, and it will outperform the 5800X. And yes, that's the same price over on Newegg as well. All right, let's move on through the rest of our deals. I have just a handful of parts from each category. ID Cooling is a company you may or may not have heard of. I did a little bit of coverage on them at Computex a few years back. Anyway, they have a standard tower-style air cooler called the ID Cooling SE214XT, which is only $20. It even has an RGB fan, which you may or may not care about, but for 20 bucks, this is going to be at least an upgrade over stock cooling. And then this Master Liquid ML280 doesn't seem to want to go away. They were selling this for as little as like 55 or 60 bucks back in Black Friday timeframe. It's now down to $70 again. This sale ends soon, but it's a 280mm all-in-one. As long as you can fit it in your case, that's a solid option. Now, in terms of motherboards, on the Intel side, we now have the B660 chipset, which again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I feel like as the next few months go by, things are going to get a little bit more available and open up a little bit more. The B660 chipset is a compelling option if you're pairing it with a non-overclocked CPU. There are also some B660 chipset motherboards that have a clock generator in it that can let you do B-clock overclocking with a non-K, non-unlocked Intel CPU, but I'm not really going to get into that right now because again, B660 motherboard availability is somewhat limited. There are a couple $140 options. Beyond that, it quickly gets up towards $200, and there I'd say just find a Z690 motherboard rather than B660. But we have the Asus Prime B660 Plus from last month for $140. That's a full-size ATX motherboard. And then we have the Gigabyte B660M DS3H AX DDR4. These are also both DDR4 LGA 1700 motherboards because DDR5 memory is absurdly expensive and it's not something you're going to want to invest in right now, especially if you're trying to build a budget system. If you are planning on using an iGPU, you might want to look at video outs on some of these motherboards. These have 3, including 2 display ports. Not a whole lot of USB connectivity there, but this is a more budget-oriented motherboard, so there it is. Here are a few motherboards on the AMD side. If you're looking X570 and higher end, you don't need to spend crazy amounts of money on that. You can get the MPG X570 Gaming Edge from MSI for only around $175. B550 is also a great option for AMD builders, and you can get the B550M DS3H. That's essentially like the AMD variant of this version for Intel, but the Intel version is $140, the AMD version is $108, so I guess you save a few dollars there. But we're really talking like a no-frills motherboard here, so you don't have like front panel USB 3.2 Gen 2 port connectivity, but you do have some M.2 slots and everything you need to get the system up and running. This is probably the best deal on a B550 motherboard that I've seen, which is $130, down from about closer to $150 for the B550 Aorus Elite from Gigabyte, which is a nicer looking, a bit more full-featured motherboard with heat sinks that look sexy and presumably are somewhat functional, as well as a fixed I/O shield and a few other nice features that go along with higher-end motherboards. Although again, no USB 3.2 Gen 2 front panel header, which is something that I kind of look for. If your case has that, I like to get a motherboard that has that as well. Speaking of that little add-on, the Asus B550 Plus also doesn't have that, but here's another option from Asus, $136 for that board. The Gigabyte here is probably a little bit better than the Asus version. You can tell just by the build quality of it there. And here's another holdover if you're looking at Intel 10th gen or 11th gen CPUs, which you can find at a discount right now. $170 for the Asus Prime Z590-P is a good deal there. Moving on to memory, we have a Silicon Power DDR4 kit, 16 gigs of DDR4 3200 RAM for about $58. This one has a nice sort of cleanish looking black finish. For just a few dollars more, you can get the Team T-Force Dark Z Alpha 16 gig kit. This kit's a little bit faster at 3600 speed, cast latency 18, and it's only $60, so a good pairing for an AMD motherboard in particular. And here's a really nice kit of G.Skill Ripjaws 5s. This isn't a flashy kit because there's no RGB or anything like that, but this kit does use Samsung B dies, so it's going to have broad compatibility. It's DDR4 3600, cast latency 16, and it's a 32 gig kit, so a nice upgrade over the 16 gig kits. Now you can find cheaper 1 terabyte NVMe SSDs, but this is a PCIe 4.0 model, which has reads and writes of, it's not right. Those are 3.0 speeds. Why do they have those both listed? Delivering read speeds of 7,000 megabytes per second, so it's quite a bit faster than a Gen 3 drive. You can find Gen 3 drives for cheaper. Here's a 1 terabyte SanDisk for only $95, available over on Best Buy. And 2 terabyte drives are also coming down in price, and this is also a Gen 4 drive. It's not quite as fast as the 980 Pro, but it's still right up there. 7,000 megabytes per second reads, 5,300 megabytes per second writes. And like, this was literally 275 when I pulled this up for this video, and now it's down to 256. So good prices on NVMe SSDs. Here's another 2 terabytes Team Group MP33. This is a PCIe 3.0 drive. So again, not crazy fast in terms of reads and writes, 1,800 and 1,500 megabytes per second, but still really nice step up from a SATA drive, and 170 for 2 terabytes is a good deal there. And then here's a Mushkin Helix L 1 terabyte drive for $85. Again, a Gen 3 drive. Solid performance in terms of read and write speeds there. And I didn't include any like 500 gig class drives here, but you can usually find those for around the $50 to $55 range, sometimes even a little bit cheaper than that. But just keep that in mind for the builds that I'm gonna do at the end here. Here are cases. I have 2 cases. They're both $55. There's a Fractal Design Focus G, which I've used for the past few months, just as a solid entry-level $55 case. Does not have tempered glass. It's got a plexi side panel, but fans are included. It's a functional case and it has good airflow, so that's why I've chosen it. We also have the Thermaltake Versa H18, which is $50. And again, plenty of airflow here. It does have tempered glass if that's something that you're really interested in, and it at least comes with one 120mm fan to get you up and running. Power supplies. Here's a really nice deal on a high-end power supply, at least a 1,000 watt. So if you're looking at a higher end GPU and you need something to power it, a $130 price for this EVGA 80 plus gold rated 1000 GT unit is a good deal. It's down from $200 regular price. We also have the Silverstone 750 watt unit that I've recommended for a few months now. This is also down in price to $60. So if you're looking at something that requires a 750 watt power supply like an RTX 3080, then make sure you get one of those. And then for more entry-level systems that are looking at more mid to lower end graphics cards, you can get by with 550 to 600 watts usually. Again, check the wattage recommendation for the graphics card that you're looking at to determine what kind of power supply you should get. This was as cheap as $35, but it's still a good deal at $45. Lastly, a subject that I've only dabbled in here and there is pre-built or like already assembled PCs. And if you are looking for a new system and you want a higher end graphics card, it is a much better deal to buy a full PC right now than to buy something like an RTX 3080, which honestly can cost $2,000 all by itself. Here's an Asus ROG gaming desktop with an 11700K, 16 gigs of memory, and an RTX 3080 for $2,100 over on Best Buy. So keep an eye out for deals like that. I included this here because it's a solid deal, especially if you're looking for a 3080. And here are my 2 builds, the 5600G based system where you would use the iGPU in order to game, which is a solid entry-level gaming for 720p or 1080p. 16 gigs of memory, that Gigabyte B550M DS3H motherboard, that Thermaltake Micro ATX case to go along with the Micro ATX motherboard, a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, and here's where you could shave $30 or so off the price by going with a 500 gig class drive, and then a 600 watt power supply, which is overkill for this build from the outset, but the idea is that it is upgrade ready to drop in a graphics card. But I do not recommend dropping the 6500 XT into this build because it uses the Ryzen 5 5600G that's limited to PCIe 3.0 for connectivity, and it would hurt the performance of this card even more. That said, you could build the system and pair it with a graphics card that isn't limited to a by-4 interface and you'd be just fine. And the total price is $573, which is not bad at all, and you could even, again, bring that down a little bit more by going with the lower capacity SSD. Here's my Intel build. This one does have a discrete GPU. The total on this is a bit more at $854, and I could totally make that even cheaper if there were more Intel CPUs available, like the 12100 or 12100F. For now, the 12400 for about $200 is what I would go with from those available options. You can get that 6500 XT for about $270. Again, that's overpriced for the 6500 XT for what it is. It's only a good deal because of how the market is right now. So please, reality check, double check those used listings, and don't invest in the 6500 XT if you can find something better. For memory, again, 16 gigs of DDR4 3600 for $60. The Asus Prime B660 plus DDR4 motherboard for $140. Fractal Design Focus G for $55. That same Mushkin SSD, and again, you can go lower capacity and save 30 bucks or so, and that same power supply too for $854 total. So guys, those are my builds, those are my deals for February 2022, and again, I'm hoping to sort of use these first couple videos for the year, for January and February, as sort of a baseline to see how things go from here on out. Because as I've mentioned before, there's lots of reasons to be optimistic right now. It does seem like things are moving towards being a little bit better of a purchasing environment for people who want to build their own gaming PCs. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments if for future videos, as hopefully the used market heats up a little bit more, if you'd like to see me look at actual used listings for GPUs to give a bit more of a real world comparison there. It wouldn't be like I show you a used listing and then I can say, you can buy this, because most used listings are just a single card. But whatever I can do to help you guys build systems for reasonable prices is what I want to do. So leave me those comments in the comment section down below. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more videos like this one in the future. And don't forget to check out my store at paulshardware.net, where you can buy shirts, mugs, pint glasses, hoodies, all manner of super high quality merchandise. Thank you guys so much for your support, and we'll see you in the next video.